Hello, ITPC. Joshua Stewart, Pipe Up North. Well, I think I'm going to start out. When I was up north in the woods last weekend, I did make a couple other videos while I was up there, but they unfortunately just really didn't turn out that good. So I'm going to kind of, how will I say, maybe recreate some of the content that I'd talked about on, probably not all of them, but at least some. Which one of the things was mentioned that I got my Ken Byron Ventures order last week. And in it was the HU Louisiana Broken. And I think when I mentioned that I got it, I don't remember if I'd tried it yet or only had one or two bowls. But as it turned out, well, other than the Captain Black Dark and Captain Black Royal that are just always kind of my go-to in the car blends, at least when I'm by myself in the car, that Louisiana Broken was kind of my go-to all weekend. And I really like it. If there's one flaw that isn't quite to my taste, it would maybe be that the might be just a little bit too much Perique for my taste, which I don't mind a little bit. And just going by the font size, there's not much in there, but it was to the point where it was almost distracting to me. Not bad, but which, like I say, I had I wouldn't guess the count, but many bowls over the weekend. And I would say the nick hit was not really noticeable. I could tell that there was some there, but not like some that I definitely can't do back-to-back bowls, and I was able to with that without any issue. So yeah, that's a win. I can't wait. When it gets back in stock, I'll probably be ordering some more. Which I guess I wasn't surprised from what I'd heard on the HU blends that they were, top-notch stuff. I wasn't surprised that they basically sold out in a matter of hours. So I don't know if I gotta ration that to make sure that it lasts me a while, or when the next drop is going to be. It's like a lot of those other European drops, they come what, like quarterly or something like that. So then one of the other things that I talked about in one of the videos that I tried to make last weekend was I found out about the black mystery envelope. my suspicions were correct. That Carolina Rose did have something to do with it. It wasn't from her. That she was involved, and it came from Zach at Duran's Rest. In it, were a few nasal snuff samples. Now, I've been curious but leery of nasal snuff. In fact, I'll tell you a quick little story of my first even hearing of nasal snuff was probably 20 years ago. I had a coworker who was big into Harleys, and he'd go to Sturgis every year. He'd just camp out wherever he could, and so a lot of these pastures that are, 40 acres or whatever, they'll just turn them into campground for the week. And a lot of these guys, they just go out there by themselves, and that's what he did too. And so you kind of get to know the people that are in the campsites next to you a little bit and hang out with them. One of them, one of his neighbors, was a guy from someplace in Europe. I want to say Germany, but I could be wrong. And so he saw him outside there and, doing he thought he was doing cocaine or something. And he got talking to him, and, well, that's nasal snuff. It's a tobacco product. And he'd never heard of nasal snuff either at the time. So the guy explained it to him a little bit, and was like, oh, okay, whatever. I'd never really given it too much thought until I saw a couple of people on the YTPC that dabble in the snuff as well. So I was kind of curious, and apparently I'd mentioned it in a video a while back. So Carolina Rose kind of orchestrated this deal with Duran's Rest, and he sent me those samples. So thank you, Zach. I'm not going to try them right now, but I did a little research, and I tried the Golden Glow first, and well, it does smell very pleasant, and how would I say it? I don't think I had enough of it on my sample because I didn't want to overdo it for my first shot, because I saw Bill Keach when he did his first of well, at least that particular blend of nasal stuff. I don't know, maybe he's had it before, but he kind of got shot back in his chair a little bit, and I didn't want to have that happen to me. So, but it was pretty uneventful. And then a few hours later, I tried the Red Bull, which is the blend that Bill tried, and yeah, that's got a little bit more of a zing to it. And so, anyway, I'll probably try the rest of these, but I don't know. I definitely appreciate the samples, and that kind of helps decide if it's something you want to get more of or not. And say, unless my mind changes, I think I'm probably gonna not get into the nasal snuff too much, because although there is pleasant smells and stuff like that, I don't think it aligns with my purpose for starting tobacco, which is with the pipe to just kind of sit and relax and contemplate for a bit. And it seems like the nasal snuff is something more for on the go while you're busy doing other stuff. Although I will say that it was more like, even like 5 minutes after I tried it, it seemed to be wearing off when I was in the tent up north, where it's probably 80 degrees in the tent with that wood stove, maybe warmer. Hot enough where I was sweating. And I'd go out into the cool air that was in the 40s, and that was definitely refreshing. Stepping out into the cool air with that stuff still there, but it's definitely an interesting experience. And I say I'm not into the pipe smoking for the nicotine aspect. In fact, some of the higher nicotine blends, even when they taste delicious, I tend to avoid them just because it seems like it's easy to get too much. Like, for example, the Peterson 3P, I think it's delicious, but I definitely have to have smaller bowls when I use that. And then I think the other one is the Davidoff Flake Medallions, which is spectacular. But I can only have half of a flake of that at a time, otherwise it'll knock me on my backside. So, once again, I want to thank Zach and Rose for coordinating that. I appreciate it. Like I say, I'll go through the rest of these blends, and maybe something is going to speak to me, and I'm going to have to buy a tin or whatever container they come in, and just have it on hand for when I'm in the mood for that. But anyway, by the time this gets posted, it's going to be Tuesday, which means it's codger and a corn cob and tobacco tin Tuesday. So we'll start with the corn cob. This is not a very good corn cob. It's basically disposable. It's a Chinese. I bought a dozen of these Chinese corn cobs because they were cheap, and I want them for basically trying some of the more heavily flavored aromatics that I didn't want to risk ghosting any of my other pipes with. And I've got this particular one dedicated to like fruity blends. That's what I got in it right now. Probably one of the more common fruity blends, Captain Black Cherry. And this Captain Black Cherry is a very strong bag note. That's why I've got it wrapped in a Ziploc in addition. I can still smell it, even. Well, it might be that I'm got the pipe going too, but it'll even when it's sealed in the factory pouch, it seems like that cherry scent still escapes. And I've just got I believe it's a Dr. Grable paper filter in here, but stuff definitely wants to bite, so I should have maybe put one of those Dr. Pearl charcoal filters in, because they've got a little bit more of a restrictive draw. Which for this would be a good thing. if you go too fast at all, it will bite. Now, I can't really speak to the room note, but pouch note definitely smells good. Very strong and almost overpowering, but as far as taste, I know I'm getting to be less and less into these really heavily flavored aromatics. I guess that being said, I still like the Captain Black Royal, which some could consider a heavily flavored aromatic. But I don't remember that I've ever gotten any bite with that. This, I'm trying, intentionally going very slow with it, and it's still trying to bite. So we got the corn cob and the codger. Time to get to the tobacco tin. This week we've got Surbrug's Golden Sceptre. I don't really know too much about this. I googled the name, and apparently it's still made, or at least a modern replica. Seems like Wilkie Tobacco, I believe it is, sells a modern version of this, which I have no idea if it's like the original or not, but very Latakia heavy. This has a description, but it's covered up by the tax stamp, so it's not really readable there. As far as the tin description, but it does say Golden Sceptre since 1861, and have striven during that period to perfect a mixture that will not bite your tongue and will not dry your throat. So anyway, yeah, kind of a cool little tin. If we can get the light to shine inside there, to little bit of rust, but not bad. Definitely some scratches and stuff too. Maybe a little bit of dirt, but I'm not gonna bother to try to wash it. I'm always worried about doing more harm than good if I try to wipe something too hard. But yeah, how old is it? No idea. I don't know, when did they start using tax stamps? Was it like World War I era? I don't remember. I should have checked that out. So I saw some on eBay that claimed they were from like 1900 to 1910. Which maybe there's some versions that are, but yeah, I would guess sometime between the wars. I don't know. I could be way off too. But apparently that was it. Surbrug's was they were a tobacco shop in, was it New York? I don't remember. I should have wrote this stuff down, but oh well. So it was basically their house blend apparently that they tinned up. But all this tiny printing, I'm not gonna try to read it without a little help anymore. But found this kind of interesting. So notice the manufacturer of this tobacco has compiled with all the requirements of the law. Every person is cautioned not to use this package for tobacco again. So, thought that was kind of funny. So, no return for deposit on that, apparently. So anyway, there's our tin for the day, for the week, whatever we're doing. And I'll do one more update from the weekend. We're already running long, but that's okay, I guess. As you may know, my main purpose of the trip was last weekend was Minnesota Firearms Deer Opener. And I saw one deer. It was Saturday morning, probably, I don't know what time it was, 8:30 maybe. I've been sitting in my ground blind for an hour or two. There was a doe, she just kind of came walking up about 50 yards away, which is towards, that was the distance that I sighted my rifle in at. Kind of came walking and came between a couple of trees that was a good shot. But I completely missed. Which, I guess complete miss is better than doing a gut shot or something, or injuring and causing them to suffer more than they need to. I thought it was kind of funny after I missed. Of course, they hear the shot and they jump and they run back the direction that they came from. She went about 20 yards back and then stopped, turned around, and started walking towards me. And she got probably 15 yards closer than she was when I shot. And at that distance, her body was kind of below the crest of a hill because had my ground blind kind of up on the hill a little bit. So it was just her head sticking up, looking right at me, and like she was, how would you say, without being offensive, well, it's like she was scolding me for, what do you think you're taking a shot at me for? I got stuff to do and I'm busy, and here you go shooting at me. And like she was just reaming me a new one or something. She sat there just staring at me like she was chewing me out for about 10 or 15 seconds. Then like she was disgusted and just kind of walked away back to where she came from, and then walked back to where she was going, and then she trotted off. And I could have, someone who was more competent and confident in their shooting skills would have taken another shot somewhere in there, but I'm not skilled enough to make a good shot at a moving target. At least not one that's more than the slow walk that she was doing when I took the shot. But then never saw any more all weekend, so it was a little disappointing. Definitely hear a lot of shots in the area, and I don't know how far a report will travel um, 5 miles, 3 miles. But there was definitely a few that were within a mile of where I was. That I know some of my neighbors up there hunt their land up there too. So we'll have to check the trail cams when I get up there next weekend and see if that big buck is still roaming around. Though sometimes it's like the big bucks, they know when it's hunting season and they just kind of hunker down and don't move for anything sometimes too because they know better. But anyway, there's a few other things I wanted to update you on, but I can save them for another time. Maybe I have to see if I can make something presentable out of those other videos that I took too, but we'll have to see. So, his final thought on the Captain Black Cherry. Unless you're really in the mood for a cherry blend. I think I'm gonna maybe have another bowl of that Louisiana Broken. I'm done with this. We'll see. But anyway, with that, I'll probably let you go. It's Joshua Stewart, Pipe Up North. You have a good day.